Hey, beautiful soul, get excited for today's episode. Long awaited, the ones that I get so excited about among many. Sheetal Story is here with the astrology report and letting us know all about what to expect. And of course, some practical tips for her astrology predictions for the second half of 2025, June 2025 through December 2025. And if you missed the first one, which is January through May of 2025. You can go back and listen to that. It was released in probably December 2024 on the pod to see what has already happened, the energy that you might have just come out of. And as you listen to this, make sure that either you can make some notes because we give some specific, well, Sheetal gives some specific dates about some heads up or how to be best working on the energy or using it to your benefit and what we need to know the most. And so many of you have told me that you come back to these episodes with Sheetal and the astrology predictions kind of month by month to see like what you need to prepare for in that month ahead. So I highly recommend using it that way as well. This is going to be just a short and sweet intro because I really want to get to this talk with Sheetal. She is so gracious to share her gifts and her talents and her ability to really dive into this energy with us. So without further ado, welcome in to our little Spirit Speakeasy, Sheetal Story. Hey, beautiful souls, welcome back or welcome in for one of our most exciting and anticipated episodes for the kickoff of summer. Today, our guest is Sheetal Story. Some of you know and love her already. She is a psychic medium, a spiritual grief support counselor, and professional astrologer with a master's in coaching and business degree from the University of Alberta. She's one of our amazing neighbors to the north. She empowers women from entrepreneurs and professionals to stay-at-home moms to break through blocks, trust their intuition, and up-level to the next stage of their lives. Specializing in navigating grief and life transitions, Sheetal combines spiritual insights with grounded expertise to help her clients transform challenges into opportunities for growth, alignment, and joy-filled success. Welcome in, Sheetal Story.
Thank you for having me back. I love coming into these updates and being here on your beautiful sacred space. So I'm so honored.
Well, I'm always grateful when you say yes, because I slide into your email inbox every 6 months or so and say, like, will you give us the next 6 months astrology? And I think it's been a topsy-turvy first half, and I just cannot even imagine what is in store for the back half of this year.
Well, I think we've been noticing, and we said this in our last podcast together, that this is going to be a very poignant year of change for the
Yes.
collective, for us, because this energy that's coming in with these outer planets changing signs is bringing in change. And with change comes big transformations because we can't hold on to all the stuff that we are bringing into this year, and what we're calling forward, or what's calling us forward, needs us to shift into an identity of the person we're becoming. So there's a lot of souls exiting this planet. There's a lot of animals dying too at this time. I know so many people with pets that are transitioning into spirit as well, which are little healers, and so much grief that comes along with that. And then also everything that's happening in the world in terms of conflicts and government changes. We just had a government change here in Canada, and there was a lot of
Oh,
grief
we've
because
been watching.
yes, there's been a lot of, and it's interesting because I come from a province that's very, what you would say, sort of Republican, or we'd say conservative. And so there was a lot of, it was almost a 50-50 split, and very much similar to what happened in the US as well. It's just the Liberals won in Canada versus the Republicans won in the US. So very similar, in terms of that split of Canada versus and the US. And how do we come together through this division? Because we all want the same things. We all want safety. We want love. We want to see a future where we feel like our children and us can thrive. And so the way that we see that path forward is sometimes very different with who we think is going to lead us into that. So now that we've now reconciling this is, how do we now bring together? And I feel very fortunate because the leader that did come into Canada is like, let's unite, let's come together. And all of us, I want to be a leader for all. So that's been something that we're navigating as well. But it's, you see it mirrored out into the world, you know, where there's conflicts happening now in India and Pakistan, and
I
we're seeing in the
know.
Gaza Strip, and we're seeing it in Ukraine and Russia. So there's like these little proxy wars that are coming up, and it's so much of the old versus the new, right? Every conflict, you can see the old and the new kind of coming forward. So
So true. I
this,
mean, even with look, turnover of the Pope, there's even that's
yes,
also happening. Like there's just so
yes.
much bubbling everywhere, it feels like.
So interesting. And even with the Pope, you know, Leo, choosing his name as Leo is like also kind of controversial or very different
Yes.
than any of the other popes. And he's already proving to be someone who's very modern in the way that he's seeing like the world and wanting to bring peace forward and acknowledging things that other popes kind of took their time to get into. So, you know,
Yeah.
this is a pope of the modern times, you know, whatever you believe, like he is still a leader of many, many Catholics around the world. And he also holds influence in a way that he doesn't have tariffs, he doesn't have contracts, you know, he doesn't
Right.
have agreements with people, but he holds so much sway with governments and officials around the world. So
Yeah,
it's
it's so
really
interesting.
interesting. Yeah, it's such a great time to be alive. And if you're listening to this podcast, your soul chose to be here during this moment in time in history, and you
Yeah.
have an important part to play in this time of life and time of this universe. We are creating history in this moment, and where you get to be, like your soul is calling you forward into that purpose. So I hope that the astrology gets to inspire you and help you navigate the energies that are coming in, because every time we have planets changing signs, every time we have a retrograde of a personal planet, which is Mercury for the rest of the year. Mercury's going to retrograde twice. They're going to be this turbulence that's going to come up, but it's actually energy that's calling you forward into a metamorphosis, into a transformation. And
Yeah.
if you can see it as such, then you can ask the question, what is this trying to teach me? What is this trying to show me about my future self? And what is trying to be letting go? What's trying to let go out of my identity? Then you'll have an easier time of navigating it than people who do not. Like there was so, it was so interesting during what was it, there was a Mercury retrograde that happened earlier this year, and there was glitches like crazy with social media, with polling systems and all this stuff. And I was just like, of course Mercury's retrograde. And everyone's like, oh, you knew this was coming. I'm like, yeah, that's why I didn't have a
So
launch at this
funny.
time. Right. So it's like we can explain
Yeah.
why we're having these experiences when we watch the astrology, when we understand energy. And, you know, not most of the world, you know, a lot of the world poo poos astrology, but, you know, how do you explain some of these big tech glitches
Yeah.
when, you know, like when Instagram changed its profile
Oh,
size,
geez.
right? It was right around that time of
Yeah.
Mercury retrograde. And I was like, yeah, you know, here it is. And everyone's like, what do we do? And my stuff doesn't look good. And I was like, I don't even care. Whatever.
I think that's interesting as far as like the poo pooing of astrology. Where I grew up in Boston, it is very poo pooed in a general sense there. But as I grew and experienced other cultures and learned in some cultures, it's very, um, it's very welcome and very much like
Necessary.
everyone has an education about it, and it's just part of the way we look at the overall how we want to make choices and things. And I think once I understood the specifics of astrology and how it's not just that like sun signs in the newspaper of the old days where it's so general, of course, it's so dialed in and specific. And the if you've ever had like a real astrology reading, the things that can be known about us are just mind blowing. And I
Mind
think when
blowing.
someone has that experience and understands like even also the cultural significances in some areas, it's like, oh, okay, this is not just, you know, a blase, very general thing. This
Yeah.
is like a science of its own.
It is in although astrology doesn't call itself a science, it is very scientific in the way that
Yeah.
it collects data and it explores things and researches. It's quite interesting. And like in cultures, I love that you said that, because in cultures around the world, especially in Asia, it is
Yeah.
necessary. You do not get married
Yeah.
without consulting the astrology. You do not name your baby without consulting the astrology, because you want to give the best possible chances for success on everything that you do.
Of
And I think
course,
when
yeah.
you get your own consultation, I give your dates, your transits for the year ahead, and the dates of that, you can't make it up. It is so specific. I
Right.
have a friend who went to my mentor at the time, and the mentor had said to her, "You're going to go into the hospital. Like there's going to be a medical emergency, but you'll be out before this date." And she's like, "Okay, whatever." Like as if astrology can do that. And then she had a
Yeah.
bowel blockage
Oh my
and
gosh.
she had to go in for surgery. And the date that she got out of the hospital was the exact date that was on her transits report.
It's
She's
so
like, "Sheetal,
interesting.
like, what are the chances?" And I'm like, "I know, because it's specific. It's
Yeah.
so helpful to help you navigate the energies." So, I mean, that was very specific. Astrology can be predictive, and there's a big, I'm going to say, debate within astrology where we feel like as a predictive tool, it can be very controversial
Right.
because nothing is for sure going to happen. You have free will to also use the energy. It's not just happening to you, it's not fate, which is why I didn't like Vedic astrology, because Vedic astrology is very fated. You're
Hmm.
going to die in this time, you're going to live at this, you're going to have this experience. And, like with the bowel blockage, for example, I mean, like that was something that was coming for her because it changed her life after that. It really shifted the way that she looked at her life, out of fitness and everything. So that was kind of something that was coming. But
Yeah.
how she embraced it and astrology helped her to flow with it was the tool that helped her.
Yeah.
So it's like, can you use astrology as a tool to help you surf what's coming your way? And you have free will to make the energies for your highest and best.
Which is, I think, the best way to use it. And with anything with prediction, free will is such an important component, because I was thinking about this when we were talking earlier in kind of with the more global sense. If we have the quote unquote weather report of the energy and the potentials of that week or time period, we still get to choose if we want to bring an umbrella or wear some rain boots or just like freestyle it and see what happens, roll them dice, right?
And then you get what you get,
Yeah, you
as
get
the
what you
kids used to
get.
say, and you don't get upset. So
Exactly.
I love astrology for just having this, like I say in intuition development, it's like build your own book of evidence. See how this works for you. Like
Yeah.
in astrology, when we look at prediction, we look at statistically what happens every time these planets come together. So we know that when we have these outer planets that conjunct, you'll often, or conjunct means come together at the same degree, that we look back in history, what happened the last 5 times that this happened,
Right.
and we'll see these patterns. And the patterns of this year, especially with some of these outer planets, there is a very divisive tone that comes up. So the revolutions, wars have come up because there's two
Yeah.
opposing sides having very different opinions on the ways to move forward. Guess what we're seeing? We just talked
Yeah.
about that, right? Two opposite sides. But now we're so much more diplomatic. We're more, we want to talk to each other and have, I mean, we're seeing this in Canada more, this come together and heal this division. And I think in the States, what we're noticing is it's dividing like louder and louder and louder. There isn't
Yeah.
a voice for unification. It just seems like one side is just becoming very loud in the division. So we
Yeah.
need those of us who are in the spiritual realm and who are, when you listen to astrology, you realize there's forces at work, there's energy coming onto this planet. We have free will, you have a soul, there is a divine purpose for you. Then we are the voice of healing, we are the voice of unification. So
So true. Yeah.
there's, even within the astrology community, astrologers who are professional astrologers, we see ourselves as unifiers of people who are wanting the cultures to come together and seeing yourself in other people too. So hopefully you can see that in astrology.
I hope that
Person's
we're
listening.
gonna see some tides turning in this astrology
Well,
towards
some tides are
more
turning.
people coming to the table for these conversations and things.
There's more opportunities for that, that's for sure, because what's coming in this next year, next half of the year, so we're going to be talking from June, July, August, September, November, December,
Yeah.
and so the next 6 months of the year. And these next 6 months, there is a lot of energy changing and coming in. Those outer planets are still moving into new signs, and some are retrograding back into old signs. So one of the things that I think the universe has really orchestrated on our behalf as humans, we don't like change. Our
Yeah.
minds need certainty and live in the past. So what happens when these planets dip into new energy, new signs, they will retrograde out for a period of time to the energy that we were used to, and then it'll dip back in again. So it's almost like a toe toe dip of like, this is what's
Okay.
coming. Are you ready? And you can be like, okay, I gotta go get an umbrella. I gotta go get on some socks. Okay, and now you're ready for the next movement that's going to come in.
Right.
So 2025 is very much a year of toe dips. You know, there's some planets that are shifting signs, yes, but there's some that are shifting and then shifting back out. So we'll
Yes.
talk about that as well. And then we're going to then see in 2026 a big shift into now fully into these new signs. So 2026 is going to be a higher amped up octave from 2025. And
Oh.
this is where
In a
you've been
good
feeling it.
way. And I guess that's up for interpretation.
But I mean, this is the shifts that we're here for. You know,
Right.
I think as
Yeah.
leaders in this, in this new era, we are here to lead the way and to show that. And of course, we have to go through it too,
Yeah.
right? So I've been going through my own soup of like, what am I now? I feel like I'm in the cocoon, you know, liquefying and like trying to, not trying anything, actually just being in this
Yeah.
year. It's just my hermit year of, it's my year of no. And I've just been saying no to everything, unless
That's
it's a
great.
yes, like this is like a hell yes on my heart. But yeah, everything has been a no. No travel this year, staying home, really
Yeah.
just seeing what's calling to my heart and where is my own business and life shifting. And so some of the people listening might feel like they relate to that because it does feel like a cocoon year, doesn't
Right.
it? Things are
Yeah,
shifting
it
so
does.
much.
Well, and we're in that 9 year energy in the numerology
Yes.
too. So it is that go, making some decisions, kind of like you said, taking a look over things. What is working? What are we ready to release? What are we excited to step into?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds
Yeah.
like everything's lining up for that.
Totally lining up for that. And that's when I love like all these modalities, like as they intersect, they're all based in energy. They're
Yeah.
all correct. So that 9 numerology year, we are seeing that, right? Everyone is seeing endings, tying off of loose ends,
Yeah.
releasing things that are no longer serving. Because when we step into a 1 year next year, it is a whole new year,
So true.
a new cycle. And
Yeah.
everyone's like, oh, new beginnings. Yay. Oh, new beginnings are also wobbly as F, right?
Yes.
Because it's like when you start a new job and you're like, who do I call? And where's the garbage? And who do I send
Exactly.
my expenses to? Like, that's next year's energy.
Okay.
So,
So maybe a little messy, but
yeah,
moving
well,
forward.
we're all in it together. You know,
That's
you're all
true.
starting off on the same foot. So, if we start with June, which we're about to transit, depending on where they're listening to this, we have Jupiter entering Cancer on the 9th. So, Jupiter moves one sign every year, and Jupiter will stay in Cancer until June of 2026. So, this Cancerian energy is going to really help us with nurturing, with safety, with really wanting to protect those that are less fortunate, children and women. It's also a sign of intuition and sensitivity. And Jupiter is the expansion planet. It's optimism and good luck. So whatever it
Exciting.
touches, so it's making us sensitive, you know, as a collective
Yeah.
to other people's feelings. It is also making us sensitive to being very emotional. So we're going to feel very emotional, very teary-eyed. There's going to be more kindness and love, I feel like, with this Jupiter in Cancer, because we need it to soften some of the other things that are coming in. So expanding our focus on home, family, emotional security. It's a time of growth and nurturing connections, but that home and family security is bringing up also sort of the volatility in the stock market and
Okay.
what's going to be happening there, because I'll talk about that. But that is going to bring us into more safety with our money. And are we doing the right things? Are we looking after ourselves and our families? So that's starting in June 9th. And then we're going to go straight into a Jupiter square Saturn. So squares are a tension between two planets,
Yeah.
Jupiter being that expansionary planet in Cancer, home, family. Saturn is sitting in Aries, the planet of go and fire and, you know, initiation. So, and Saturn is about responsibility, duty, and structure. So these two planets come together in a square. This is a really wonderful, like, are you building things with safety? Are you
Right.
just going ahead and doing things like because, you know, you're going off willy-nilly? Or do you have a plan in place for growth and responsible growth, promoting us to balance optimism with realistic planning? So we can have
Okay.
Jupiter's optimism and expansion, and then Saturn is about planning and structure and doing well with that. So we could have a little bit mid month, a little test on whether the way that you are growing is growing in alignment with your goals and with safety and security for your family and for your long term goals and long term planning.
Yeah, it's
So,
great because it's a good time to, if you know that that's going to be the energy, it's a great time to sit down and maybe be
Budget.
evaluating some of those things. Yeah,
Yes.
budget, decide if you really still feel like holding that grudge,
Yes.
whatever it is.
But it's also like material resources. Saturn
Right,
is about scarcity. So these material resources that are like, how are you using them? You know, with your
right.
house, with all the stuff in your house. Maybe it's a great time to have a garage sale and get rid of all this extra stuff and turn it back into money. You know, where could you do some extra little things that are actually then bringing in some money? So being in alignment with your true self. Aries is a sign of the entrepreneur. So where are you, can you serve people that you need, you know, that you're being called to serve, and being in your gifts and alignment? And so putting out your first offer, or doing something new in that direction is also going to, this could be that too. So
Okay,
you can
great.
see it can be expansionary or
Yeah.
it can be contraction, but it depends on where you're sitting in your own purpose and money story.
Okay, that's good to know for June.
So yes. And then because Saturn and Neptune are working together through Aries, they're then also going to have a square to Neptune. And Neptune is the planet of like murkiness, fog, it's intuition, it's connection to divine, spirituality. It's kind of the like God is Neptune. And Neptune's also kind of rules the waters. So when we have Neptune and Jupiter in square, this can blur boundaries and make our dreams feel very like idealistic and we can do anything. So Saturn moving with Neptune is a pro and a con, in that it's going to help us create that sort of being responsible and grounded, and are you doing things the right way? But Neptune's like, but you can do anything, you know, just go do it.
Don't
you're
worry
you're a
about
star,
it.
right? And Saturn's like, okay, but are you, like, are you really, you know, are you doing things the right way? Do you have credentials? And Neptune's like, don't worry about the credentials, just go do. So it can be escapism with Jupiter
Right.
square Neptune. So around the 18th of the month, you'll feel more sensitive as well. So if you are someone who does imbibe, you know, who does alcohol or does some recreational drugs, it's a time where you'll feel very, very sensitive. So you won't need as much to have that buzz feeling if you do, is that if that's what you want. But it's very sensitive time for your body and for you. So just being really cautionary as to who you're around and what
Yeah.
you're allowing into your vortex of energy and awareness.
That's a good heads up, especially, I know in our hemisphere we are going into the summer months. In the southern hemisphere, they're going into the winter months, which lots of that is gathering and celebration and opportunities to exercise what we're talking about right now. So pace
Boundaries.
yourself, be honest with yourself.
And be boundaried with your energy. You know,
Yeah.
not everyone gets to qualify to be in your brilliance as much as you might have been conditioned to be that way as a child, that like, oh,
Yeah.
go hug your uncle or you should have your grandparents over. But if they are actually not giving you like light and energy and filling your cup, then you want to ask yourself, how much tradition do I want to have in my life? And how much
Right.
do I want to have of my more modern energy for me? And really thinking
Yes.
about where that's going to go in your future, if that's okay for you.
Well, thank you for clarifying that, because that's what I meant when I was like, be honest with yourself. It's like, yeah, does this person, feed my energy? Do I want to engage in this connection? Do I really just not want to? And as this airs, we will have just a couple weeks ago had an episode about boundaries. So it's kind
Oh,
of perfect
perfect
timing, and
timing.
how
I
to
love that.
exercise your boundaries with kindness and some suggestions around that. So this is a great time to practice all of that this summer or winter, depending where you are.
It's so important because Saturn is about tradition. And so this is going to be about, what do you want to make traditionally continue on in your life?
Yeah.
So even now, as we're talking, I have family coming from India that I haven't seen like 40 years, 30 years kind of
Wow.
thing. And there was a question of like, am I going to host, or are we just going to go to my parents and host there? And I was like, no, I'll just go to my parents. Like, I really have zero interest of having them to
Look
you
at
know,
you, year of no.
met that, yeah, my year of no is continuing on. Well said. Yes, well said. But I was like, well, do I feel like I'm missing out, or is this going to feel like, I know my parents were completely disappointed that I'm not hosting them at my house because they're hosting them at theirs and they're going to take them around and all the things. And I was like, I'm fine. I don't
Yeah.
know if I'll actually keep in touch with this side of my family, because there's really not a lot in common. There was such an age gap, and there's just not
Right.
a lot in common. I mean, like, they're wonderful people and stuff. And some might say family is family, Sheetal. but I have people here that I've grown up with that are like they are my family.
Right.
So even that question of like, what's family to you? Because Jupiter in Cancer is family. So Jupiter is going to ask you, who is truly your family? And where are you then allowing people to cross those boundaries because they're family, quote unquote, or you actually want them in your life because they're there for you when you need them, and it's unconditional loving presence.
Yeah. Well, I think that's important to look at for all of
Mm-hmm.
us.
100%. And so we're not going to talk about, because of the time that we have,
Yeah.
talk about all the new moons and full moons and all those things. Those are
Right.
on the sort of, if you've listened to my podcast or my astro weather, I just go through the astro weather every week. So we'll talk about
Yeah,
that.
you do a great job of that. And I know a lot of our listeners are listening to that. That
Mhm.
often appears on your social medias, right? So anyone
Yes.
wanting to catch those
Oh,
as we go
yes.
through this next 6 months, check
Yeah.
out your at Sheetal Story everywhere, right?
Yeah,
Okay. It'll
not
be in
on
the show
Facebook, but yeah.
notes too. So
But it's the where you can get the daily stuff, that's
yes.
happening, like, so the new moons and full moons and stuff, and those are important, but they're in terms of, like, the big, like, weather makers for
Yeah.
2025. That's what we're going to focus on here in this podcast. So the next major transit is going to be July 7th, and it's Uranus, the planet of change, upheaval, chaos, is moving into Gemini. But
Okay.
Uranus is also the higher octave of Mercury, which is the planet of the mind. So it does rule genius energy. It's a ruling planet for Aquarius in modern astrology. And it is about technology, stewardship, being there for the collective. It is change for the sake of up leveling and shaking out all the cobwebs. So into Gemini. Gemini is an air sign,
Yeah.
and it's about intellect, curiosity, information. So there's going to be this just bolting forward, and Uranus moves fast. It's erratic, it's fast, it does not want to go slow. So this Gemini energy is also very mutable, right? And this air energy is going to just be amplified by Uranus. So Uranus is going to bring in technology advances. There's going to be huge advances, I think, in communication as well. So whereas we've been using, Zoom or Google Meets or whatever for meetings,
Yeah.
back in the day it was Skype,
I
and that's
remember.
now with something new. I feel like it's going to come forward for communications, and I even feel like a Gemini is also community and camaraderie, like
Okay.
being in connection with people closest to us in our community. And I think this is going to bring about something new for social media that feels more authentic, because I think we've seen
Yeah.
with the big three being Instagram, Facebook, and I would say TikTok maybe is the third
Yeah,
one.
I
Twitter
think
is in
so.
there too, or now called X. They've all been kind of, I would say TikTok is still pretty authentic, but the other three have been kind of, I would say, corrupted, right?
Yeah.
Like it's all these ads and it's these algorithms, and, just who owns them and the way that they're running
Right.
them.
It's
It's
much less
not
organic for sure.
correct, and not about, connection really at all. It's
Right.
about transaction and commerce. If you see, like, every second ad, and then two, like, every second post and two posts back to back on my Instagram are now ads.
Right.
And I was like, how did this I'm seeing more ads than I am of people that I care about.
Yeah, I
This is
agree.
crazy how this happened. And it's like, it's almost like it's been commandeered, to go in a different direction. I think Uranus is asking for authenticity. It's for the people. It's like, what are we going to really be seeing and doing and talking about now that feels like it's elevating humanity? Uranus wants
Yeah.
to elevate consciousness. So,
Yeah. Let me ask you a question in here. So, with
yes.
Uranus and Gemini being so air, so heady, so technologically thinking, should we also be available to expect like communication that's maybe not so warm and fuzzy sometimes and like very direct as part of that?
Uranus is very, it does tell the truth. It's a truth
Yeah.
teller, so there is that piece, but it wants to get going. Like, it's not interested in fluff. It
Right.
really wants to elevate consciousness and humanity. Let's get to the bottom of things. But Gemini inherently is a very kind of I'm going to say it's a mutable sign. So it kind of goes
Right.
back and forth with things. So there's a lot of scatteredness that can come with Gemini energy.
Yeah.
Think of energy that just wants to go wherever it desires. It's mutable air without a container. So
Yes.
we need to have some guardrails. I say with my Gemini clients, we need to have, the gutter balls in bowling. We need to
Some
have the
boundaries
railings up a
there.
little
Yeah.
bit just to funnel the energy to get something done.
Okay.
So Gemini energy inherently is like you go down the rabbit hole of the spore cycle of a mushroom, and then you're onto the grasshoppers and where do they live and how do crabs eat, and
Yeah.
so you're just kind of going through all these different questions. The mind is open and it's going wherever it desires. And so with this ingenious energy now coming in, it can make us extremely scattered if we don't have goals. This is what the Saturn and Neptune in Aries is balancing this out, because we have this
Okay.
like forward momentum. We want to get something done. So this genius energy is going to elevate concepts, but I think it's going to elevate concepts that are like interesting, like something that you wouldn't normally think of, like maybe the remote control on the TV is now like
Okay.
embedded in your hand, and you just have to like touch your fingers to your hand, and you're changing the channel or something
Yeah.
like. So is it technology that we really need? Not really, but it's interesting because it's making your day-to-day life a little bit easier. So,
Yeah. Well, and I think technology means a lot of things now, right? Like it can show
yes.
up in so many ways, expected and unexpected.
And inventions are just going to skyrocket. I think we're just going to see so much more inventions entering into the market, because the barrier to entry is also like dwindling, right? It's not.
Yeah.
We used to have GoFundMe's for that, or we'd used to have, backers or things like that. And now you just can like have an idea and put it out on Amazon, get some marketing to it, and then people can buy it. Like it's
Yeah.
so different now, especially if, the technology is readily available, or you can get it made in somewhere that isn't tariffed, so that you can send it out to the right people. So there's ways of making genius become easier to access. I think this is also
Yeah.
that.
As you're
So
saying that, I have a friend who's going to be releasing a book late summer, and I'm thinking like, oh, okay, this energy makes so much sense for that type of thing.
yes, and like with community, and for late summer, for this friend that's doing this, is that he or she, they are going to have this ability to tap into their networks, and then maybe do some genius marketing, some ideas outside the box. Uranus is
Yeah.
thinking outside the box of how we can get this book into many people's hands, and maybe we can have sort of like a sharing circle out, everyone sharing, because
Yeah.
community is such a part of
I'm like, that
both
is what's
those
happening
things.
actually. So for
So
July, out of
yes.
box thinking hat on, I
Yes,
guess,
and like how
right?
can we, like, it's almost like I keep seeing like lights turning on and then other lights turning on, and so
Yeah.
it's like these connections of just people going out into the world. So it's how do we access those? So Uranus is going to be moving into Gemini July 7th to November 7th. So this is one of those those toe dip
Okay.
planets. We're going to have this experience of Gemini and Uranus, and what this innovative and unexpected ideas and communication shifts period is going to look like, and then it's going to shift back into Taurus. So it's been in Taurus for a little while, but during that time of November 7th to April 25th of 2025, that's where I think we're going to notice some stock market volatility, because Taurus rules the environment, money, stock markets, banking,
Okay.
resources, things that we value.
So
So that
November to April of this end of this year, beginning of next year.
is going to be some volatility in the market.
Okay.
So
Make a
something
note.
is going to shift in. Yeah, around November, something is going to shift in terms of the markets, or something around the world as well, that is going to then come back into a little bit of volatility.
Okay,
So
that's good
and
to
that
know. That's a great heads up.
and that feeling as we look to November, December, is a feeling of misinformation, or it can be also sort of something. The word I'm thinking of is a disconnect between nations. So it could be either like economic war or actual war, but we're already seeing some of that happening now with
Yeah.
things like tariffs and things like that. And then just a few days later, on July 13th, we have Saturn retrograding in Aries for the first time. So, as Saturn has entered Aries on May 24th, so that was in the first half of the year, we're getting this energy of what does Saturn feel like in Aries. And this is that energy, it's coming in to help us structure our forward momentum. So it's interesting because Saturn and Aries don't really like being together, right? Aries is very like volatile and explosive and erratic, and it wants to just go wherever it heart's desire. It's just
Yeah.
starting something new. And Saturn is like, are we doing it responsibly?
The
Right. Are we
teacher.
putting together structure? Yes, it's the teacher, it's the elder, it's the, the sage. And so this helping us to structure this energy in a way that is going to help us, I think, bring responsible leadership. I think as Saturn in Aries is going to be leaders being held to account. So as Saturn retrogrades in Aries on July 13th, it's going to then move into Pisces on September 1st. So we're going to get a little taste of Saturn in Pisces again, which has been there for a couple years already.
Okay.
And that's going to feel again this like spiritual, our purpose. Are we actually putting structure around what is it, our dreams, hopes, and desires, and making
Yeah.
that come out into reality? Because then when Saturn goes back into Aries on February of 2026, we're going to then have more of that like knowledge of ourselves and how we want to move forward.
Yeah.
So this is the genius of the universe. It's helping us to kind of feel the energy, go back to where we were going. Wait. Okay, how do we want to restructure this? It's a gimme, it's a
Yeah.
do-over almost a little bit where you get to use this energy now and move forward.
Well, it's like
So
a soft waking us up to the next thing,
yes,
like a
yes.
gentle. So, would you say if people over this next few months, kind of June, July, August into September, if you're questioning things, if you're really trying to figure yourself out or where your place is or what you want this next phase of life to look like, you're not crazy. You're right in the right energy for the astrology of it all.
So well said. Yes. And what's holding you back?
Yeah.
What's not, why are you not stepping forward into it? So if you're seeing that this is calling you forward, then there's something in your mind that's saying this is not okay for me, or I'm scared. So
Yeah.
really getting to the bottom of that, asking yourself the question of what am I really scared of? What does this mean for
Yeah.
me? Is this based in truth, or is this based in the past?
Yeah.
And
Looking at the stories we're telling ourselves and all that.
right. And there could be truth to it. It could be this, like I have a lot of clients who are, in this in between place of like they know what they want to do, but they can't make enough money to
Yeah.
leave their jobs. And so it's hard when you can see your purpose on the horizon and you've got one foot in the past. I've been there. I had to work my corporate job while I was continuing my side hustle and doing the thing that I loved now, which I get to do full time now. What a blessing.
Yeah.
So how can we create more safety then that paves that road? Because you can do both. I think
Right.
this is what's really coming up for me now, especially at this time when we're recording it. And I'm seeing it in my clients, I'm seeing it in my membership, in my community, this black and white thinking of the
Right.
past. I can only have this job or I can do my side hustle. I can have money or I can have purpose, right? I
Yeah.
can have joy or I can have success. I can't have both. Why? And this black and white thinking is from the past, is from the patriarchy, and we
Right.
can actually have the gray. That's the genius quality of Uranus, is that where can you find the gray? Where can you have this and that? Because
Yeah.
I 100% feel like you can have it all.
Okay. So we're just in the transition of finding where we can have gray, where we can have creative solutions or additional options that we
Yes.
hadn't, that are just in between that black and white thinking.
Yes, joy and success, money
Yes.
and purpose, secure family and a joyous life traveling. You can
Yeah.
have it all of the things, but it's about the genius quality of your creative solution of how you get there. So I think practitioners like you and I are going to be in this space of like, let's brainstorm this. Let's see what's
Yeah.
possible. What if you worked on your side hustle while you worked in your day job? What
Yeah.
if you built this thing on the side and one day the universe is going to hand you this amazing opportunity that you're going to be like, this is it. This is my goodbye to my job because I know I have enough security on this side.
I love it. I often think of this energy as like, okay, you have to lay the foundation so that when the thing shows up, you're ready. Because would you be ready today for the thing? And then yes or no. And then, okay, then what do you need to do to get ready for this thing? So be preparing the way, right?
Yeah. And I think there's that practical sense of like the money, the safety, the plan. And then there's
Yeah.
also the healing part of that is like, where did you learn you couldn't be this? What
Right.
part of you doesn't feel safe in this future? What's the story around that?
Yeah.
So we want to heal both sides of that. So then we travel into July 18th. And July 18th is now going to bring about Mercury retrograde.
Okay.
And this Mercury retrograde is in Leo. And I find that when Mercury is retrograde in a fire sign, as we had, it was retrograde in Aries earlier in the year, our forward momentum is stopped. It's
Okay.
halted, right? There's this fire. Leo is about being in your energy, in your voice, in your authentic truth, in your creativity, self-expression, love. What are you creating? That's your purpose. Your mission is coming out from your soul. And that Leo wants to create, wants to communicate, talk about things. It's the storyteller. It's the
Yeah.
guy on stage, or the actress or actress on stage telling the story and being in that role of being seen. So Leos inherently have a life lesson of being seen and being okay to be seen. And this Mercury in Leo is asking you, like, what are the stories you're telling? Where are you not taking ownership and leadership in your life? And how do you want to move forward in your creative expression of yourself? Or where have you been holding yourself back? So anything that you've been working on. So I like using the dates to really anchor this in.
Yeah.
So Mercury enters retro shade, meaning it's going to go over the degrees in which we're going to have this like really rethinking, revising, reviewing period on June 30th. So from June 30th to July 18th, whatever you are working on, thinking about, dreaming about, speaking about, you are going to have a revision of those ideas, of those goals, missions, things that you're working on between July 18th and August 11th.
Okay.
So Mercury is going to traverse these degrees and it's going slower than the Earth. It's Mercury, a retrograde just means that the planet is going slower than the Earth. So at this time, then the Earth is going faster than it. So relative to the Earth, it's going backwards.
Right.
So it's not actually going backwards in the sky. It just means it's going slower than the Earth. So this retrograde period, we're going to then be revising, reviewing, reassessing, really thinking about what are we wanting in our lives? Where are we wanting to move forward? Why are we continuing to do things that aren't really bringing alive our passion mission? Like if you haven't been painting and you're a painter at heart, why haven't you been painting? You might
Yeah.
take up painting again or start to go down a process of like creative expression and inspiration. This is going to be a great time to seek out inspiration and just be really witness to what's happening in your life,
Yeah.
right? What inspires you? And then the shadow or post shade is going to be from August 11th to August 25th. So I like to think of that as integration period, where
Right.
you're really getting to go over those degrees again now. And you're going, okay, wait, I've learned all of this stuff about myself. I'm inspired to go in this direction. So if you're writing something, you'll have a massive revision to what you've been writing. If you're wanting to take up painting, maybe you'll take up painting and take up a class in a different style of painting.
Yeah.
So this is about really embracing your creativity and going where your heart is telling you to. The heart, Leo rules the heart is Leo rules the heart is what I want to say. So that heart essence is going to lead you down where you need to go.
Okay. You just got to let it.
Just
Get
let it
ready.
follow your heart. That's a
Yeah.
Leo rule. So then we move into August, and Mercury goes direct on August 11th, and pretty much a pretty light month. We have some moons and stuff in there as well. But then September, we go into a lot again.
Okay, so in
So
August, y'all, be
enjoy.
integrating, be
Creative,
yeah, get creative, be in that
inspired.
flow, be getting yourself a little bit dialed in, take some extra rests and maybe lay in the grass and take some
Yes,
spaciousness or look out the
yes.
window at the snow depending where you are and be prepping maybe mildly for
For
September and
September,
through the rest
yeah.
of the year.
Well, I mean, in September tends to be, a
Yeah,
hectic time, right? That's when the kids go back to school. We're back into scheduling. We're starting
right.
to, it's very Virgo in terms of, organized detail, structure,
Yeah.
how to go about. So we start off the month on September 1st, going right into Saturn retrograde in Pisces. So it's entering into Pisces at this time, and it's going to retrograde until November 27th in 2025, and then it will go forward back into Aries again in February of 2026. So it's going to spend the remainder of the year in Pisces,
Okay.
and part of it in retrograde, part of it in direct motion after November 27th. And this is about promoting reflection on spiritual growth, compassion, and letting go of rigid structures in your life, because you're going to
Okay.
need that for all this expansion, right? It's anything that you've been holding in your life that, like, where did you learn it from? Pisces is the sign of healing, of
Yeah.
transcendence, of spirituality. So where did you learn all these things that are holding you back? So yeah, not so, not so light, but also very, very needed.
Yeah,
And
really
then
valuable. So,
yes, super valuable. And then we're going to have September 3rd, but it's also sort of on either side of this date. So I would even say September 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. We're going to feel Jupiter trine the North Node. So a trine is a harmonious aspect, it's a 120-degree angle. And this is supporting growth in alignment with destiny, especially around beliefs and values. This is a very lucky time. This is
okay.
good energy for getting things moving forward, for expansion. I mean, would you buy a lottery ticket? Sure, why not? Let's
Would
see.
you work on manifestations and work on
100%.
yourself and dreaming forward and all of that? Make a
Yes.
note. September 1st to 6th. This is when we want to be finding a time,
Visioning.
right, for this.
Yes. Visioning, manifestation. I love all of that. You've said it so well. And then September 6th, Uranus goes retrograde in Gemini. So this is now going to be turning up all of those communication things, all about who is your community? What are you
Yeah.
talking about? Where have you been holding on to friendships that are not aligned, or communities that you've been in since high school because you got to just be in it? This is Uranus is going to cut away anything that is now not working, and it's going to show you that. And
Okay.
Gemini is about friendships, community, communication, and then things you've been thinking about and dreaming about. So what Spirit just showed me is that, like, if you've been talking about writing a book forever, but you haven't been doing it, someone's going to call you out. Someone's going to say, like, hey, here's this course, go take it or shut up about it.
Yeah.
Like, let's go, get going on your dreams. Or if you've been thinking about being on a podcast because all the people you listen to and look up to are on a podcast, but that's not actually your thing. You actually want to do something else, then do the thing.
Yeah.
Don't hold on to things because other people are doing them. Uranus is going to really show you where you've been attaching to things for the wrong reasons. It
Maybe
brings about chaos.
maybe this is where that energy is showing up that I was asking about earlier with Uranus and Gemini. For some reason, I keep feeling there's a specific tarot card that keeps popping into my mind that often represents truth delivered with not necessarily tact. So
Mm,
don't, if it's a messy message that you're getting, if you like know something, if someone's calling you out, if someone's, saying it to you in a way that maybe doesn't feel like a warm hug, but like straight to the heart, pay attention. I feel like with this
yes.
energy.
This is that energy,
Okay.
100%, because it's trying to shake up your world because you've been not listening.
Yeah.
Right? You're stuck in a rut. You've been attaching to these old patterns, and just think of it as like the sieve that's really just shaking out everything that's no longer working. So that
Yeah.
can come in the form of a friend or someone in power saying to you, "You think you got a book on your heart? Really? Like, what are you going to talk about? What are you going to write about?" I recently had a very good friend. She's got this amazing new direction in her business coming out, and it has to do with something that's she's been going through in her life. And I had the honor of being in that space where she was able to share it with me. And I was like, this is amazing. I'm so excited. The world needs you. I can see the direction of this. She was
Yeah.
pumped. And then she shared it with some of her other friends, and they're like, you think you can do this? Really? Like,
Yeah.
do you have enough credentials? And people aren't going to understand this about you. And she was so sad, but it brought to her awareness that these friends are no longer aligned for her.
Yeah.
So, there's can be disappointment when these things come up and the reason why I share that story is because I 100% got the download that someone listening is going to have this exact same experience, that they're
Yeah.
going to share what's on their heart, and the people who aren't going to be able to receive it are just not going to be able to receive it because
Yeah.
they've either known you in a past identity, or you have to them they can't follow their own direction,
Yeah.
so then you following that direction brings up how they're inadequate or they're not able to do that, so they cannot support you moving forward. They just don't have the skills,
Yeah.
the tools and the identity to do that. So it became very loud that these friends are no longer aligned for her, and this is that energy of like you're gonna see so clearly
Yeah.
what's not no longer aligned for you,
Well, it
whether
really
it's
feels
hopes and
like in
dreams.
this last half of the year, we're being offered a lot of choice points to say, like, do you want to keep doing it this way? Do you want to keep letting people around you shut you down? Or do you want to do the thing, follow your heart, you know what I mean? What's working for you? It doesn't have to be black and white, but like making some choices. So
Yeah.
choice is not always the most comfortable, but it is the way we grow, right?
And if you choose the old pattern again, no, this is fine. This is fine. Again, the universe will come knocking
Yeah.
again. And these are all these little ways that that's going to come knocking, because there's another retrograde coming that's also going to come knocking again too. So, we have that free will to
Yeah.
continue to choose the old path, but the universe will not let us stagnate.
Right.
And Uranus is one of those, tools from the universe that just move us out of stagnation. And
Yeah.
inherently, as we move out of stagnation, there's always grief, and there's always a little bit of fear, because we're doing something we've never done before and we have to let go of old identities.
Yeah. What's that quote that I'm going to totally butcher it right now, but it's really famous, and maybe I'll say it in the outro. It's when it becomes too uncomfortable for the rose to stay tightly in the bud, that it has to eventually bloom. Do you know what I mean? Do you know that quote?
I do not, but that's a
I'll have
really
to look it
beautiful
up.
quote.
I'll put it in the outro for everyone because it's really famous.
I
But it's
love
that
that.
kind of energy where it is a growth that's like within us. That's, it's not something that someone else is forcing upon us. And at some point, what I've noticed in my own life anyway, is I will get so uncomfortable and the universe will keep saying, like, how about now? How about now? You still like it this way? Until it's less uncomfortable to step out into the thing than it is to stay stagnant.
Stagnant. Yeah, I love that. I keep seeing the vision of a baby being born, because in the womb, as the baby's being created, it does not know any other path. It doesn't know any
Yeah.
way. This is its world, and it can feel its mother's heartbeat. It can feel its warmth. It can feel safety. And when now all of a sudden it's going to be birthed out into the world, there's a lot of fear. I mean, it's crying. There's a lot of stress, for the
Yeah.
mother too. There's crying and for everybody. And then as it's coming through the birth canal, it's tight, it's squeezing. This is where we're at
It's a lot of
now.
work. Yeah.
Yeah, this is where we're at now as a collective. We're in the birth canal. And then as we come out the other side, we're like, oh, there's life here on the other side.
Yeah.
Right. There's a little analogy of these twins in the womb saying, what do you think is on the other side of this? And the one twin's like, well, there's like everything. And the other one's like, no, this is it. We only exist in here. That's it. Once you're out, sorry, buddy, you're out. You're going to be gone. Good luck to you. And then they meet each other obviously on the other side, and they're like, ha, I told you. Like there was all this
I
wonderful,
love it.
it's the same thing about death. Like this is just another transition, right?
Right.
Where we're always moving through evolutions. Some are longer than others. So this is exactly what is happening these next few years as we're birthing, these new paradigm, which is Aquarius, into the universe. So September comes with a lot of shifts. So not only do we have the Saturn retrograde in Pisces, Jupiter's trying the North Node, so that's helping us. Then we've got Uranus retrograde in Gemini. Now we've got 2 eclipses. And eclipses are big jump points in evolution for our soul and the collective. And an eclipse in astrology is when the nodes of the moon are either close to the new moon or the full moon. So we're going to have a new moon solar eclipse in Virgo on September 21st. And it's at the 29th degree of Virgo.
Okay.
So anytime we have a cosmic event at the 29th degree, we call that an anaretic or critical degree, and it's a test of how much have we learned. So this is a south node eclipse, meaning a release, but it's in the new moon phase. So what this means is this is a evolutionary jump point for us to release perfectionism. Oh, that's been showing up loud in my life, in the world around me. It's so sneaky, right? But
Yeah.
being over detailed, being over analytical. Why was that hard to say? Analytical, that analysis paralysis, thinking that you have to have all the details before you start.
Right.
That is going to be released for something new to come in now. And Virgo in its highest and best is being of service to the
Yeah.
collective, wanting to help others around us. So I'm a Virgo. So, and I, this is hitting a chart,
It's
the
one of
part
the
of my
things I
chart.
love about you, actually, but I understand why in this situation would be
Organized,
problematic.
discipline. If you saw my notes, it's highlighted with, arrows and things like that. I love being organized. But this full moon, sorry, I jumped over the first one. So the September 7th is the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces. And then on the 21st, we'll have the new moon in Virgo. So the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, this is a powerful time of releasing emotional patterns and embracing spirituality. So that Pisces is where the North Node eclipse is. This is about embracing our future collective as all of us, our
Yeah.
evolution, so that we're moving into our spiritual purpose, our divine self. What did we come here to do? Compassion, empathy, one love. So this is a very compassionate placement, and full moon is about releasing
Yeah.
what is no longer serving us. So it's interesting because it's the opposite, right? We've got this new moon, our north node, which is our direction for the collective, and then the full moon, which is a release. So what do we need to release to
Yeah.
embrace our future potential? Is really what's coming up here. Does
Which
that
is
make sense?
perfect after that 1st to 6th, all of our
Yes.
work that we're going to be doing on those days.
Yes, that's going to help you release
Yeah,
us
cap it right
all,
off.
releasing emotional patterns and embracing spirituality. And it's the spirituality piece is your connection to the divine, whatever that looks like for you. So it doesn't have to be religious dogma,
Right.
at all. It's really about your connection to God. You are a reflection of God and divine source, whatever word you want to use for that. So then we go to the 21st, which is the new moon solar eclipse in Virgo. And this is a potent time for fresh starts in health, service, and daily routines. So Virgo really rules health and wellness as well. So
Okay.
what do you want to start now? What are you really wanting to move into? This is a great time to join the gym. I'm
Yes, we
gonna
don't need to
say.
wait for the end of the year after the holidays,
No,
y'all. We can do it
correct.
do it
Now,
in the fall or in
yes.
September.
And I feel like with like Uranus moving through Gemini, this is going to be a time of going into like things with other people. Like it could be Pilates classes or
Yeah.
joining a group fitness thing where you're going through it together to change and up level your health too. So we can use this energy. They're not in silos. Right?
Yeah.
We are holistic beings. So thinking of it that way. So then we move into October 13th as the next major date, and Pluto is going to go direct in Aquarius. So was retrograde earlier in the year. It's enhancing transformation in technology, society, and collective in Aquarius. Pluto is very subtle because it's very slow moving. So it's just worth mentioning. Do I feel like something massive happens during a Pluto retrograde or direct motion? No, because the
Okay.
truth of it is it's literally sitting on the same degree for like a month.
Okay.
So it's not going to be, it's just something to note. But the bigger one to note is October 22nd, we have Neptune retrograding enters Pisces. So Neptune already started retrograde on October 22nd. Sorry, earlier Neptune was in Aries and then retrograded back into Aquarius on October 22nd. So this is now, we've kind of had Neptune in Aries at the beginning of the year, and it's going to now dip back into Pisces for a short period of time between October 22nd and January 26th, and then we'll go direct and be in Aries in after January.
Okay.
So the retrograde period in Pisces is October 22nd to December 10th. Sorry, I didn't mention that. And then it'll move back into Aries on January 26th. So this period of time between October 22nd and December 10th, Neptune rules Pisces. This is a time of us to be deeply spiritual.
Yeah.
Intuition is going to be off the charts now, especially with Jupiter in Cancer in that intuition placement. This is going to be a great time for the rest of this year of like doing spiritual like retreats or new moon,
Right.
full moon ceremonies or meditation. Something, it also rules healing. So great time for counseling and therapy as well.
Yeah. Tell me if I'm correct about this. I feel like I also want to tell people to be aware and available for those like subtle emotions just rising up, even in day to day situations. Maybe you're taking the train into the office and just some emotions are rising up. Because what I know about Neptune is he brings up things from the depths of the ocean. And I feel like, especially closing out a year of such transformation and transition, it's sometimes those little subtle emotions that if we didn't take time to notice them, we wouldn't notice them. But it's like, oh, I didn't realize I do feel like this every time when I'm, going into the office, or I do notice this, just noticing a little bit more with that Pisces Neptune dynamic duo.
Yes. And I think there's like Taurus is about the body. So with Uranus moving back, well, Taurus, I'm going to move back into Taurus in November, but we want to be in the body. So this is going to be difficult because there's a lot of like air and
Yeah.
water energy here. And being in the body is going to be a practice to just really just notice it. Because those little subtle energies that come up, if you're not paying attention and you're in the mind, then you're going to miss that. And those little subtle emotions that come up are actually showing you something that hasn't been healed,
Yeah.
something that is still sitting underneath all these layers. And so you're absolutely right. Neptune can bring that up from the depths because it makes us very like watery. It's sort of allowing it to
Yeah.
float on up, and you have to pay attention to what is this about. So if all of a sudden you're taking the train into work and you're starting to cry, ask yourself, where have I felt this emotion before? Or where
Yeah.
do I feel it in my body? What does this remind me of?
Right.
Where is this taking me back to in my past? How old is this part of me that's feeling this experience?
Yeah.
And what is it trying to tell me?
Well, this is another great reason to be making sure we're doing some sort of grounding into our body through whatever yoga, Pilates, exercise, meditation, all of those things. Sounds like it's really going to double down on the help and support for this time.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to need to be in our bodies because there's so much that's feeling, we can feel in our spirit, we'll be feeling our intuition. But here's the thing, in our auric field, and we're going to get a little woo here, but we can also name
We
this in
talk about this
science.
stuff here. It's
Yeah, it's okay.
okay.
Your energy field, that is your auric field, is a storehouse of all your emotions and experiences in your life. And until you have shifted some of those things that sit in that vibration, if you're up leveling yourself in your life, so you're going to therapy, or you're doing meditations, or you're working with joy, or you're working on your intuition, and you're really being in your highest evolutionary self. If this thing that happened in grade 2 that's continuing to sit in your auric field and stew, if you're not paying attention, it will come up in your dreams. It'll
Yeah.
come up when you're least expecting it. All of a sudden, you'll have this memory pop into your head because it is not at the vibrational field that you are in. So you've got to
Right.
bring this memory up into that vibration. And that means healing it, processing it, bringing that inner child home, realizing whatever happened to you
Yeah.
in grade 2 is okay, and that you did your best that you could in that moment. And they get to come home now, and you've got them and they're safe with you. So
Yeah.
those are opportunities for healing. And if you're not in your body, you'll miss those. And those
Yeah.
are nuggets
So
of
true.
gold.
Well, and I want to double down on what you're saying because I so frequently with students get asked, like, oh, well, I've already worked on that energy or processed that, or why is that coming back up when I thought I was done with that? Sometimes we're available, like you said, we're doing all these upgrades and growth, and we're available for a new level of healing. So it doesn't mean necessarily that it has to be something even that you've never looked at before. It could be something you've worked on quite a lot or anywhere in between, but don't resist the urge to thwart it away and really, really work it or dig deep into it because you can have some healing around it now to a new degree.
Absolutely. Have you heard this term, new level, or new level, new devil?
No, but
So
I feel
there's,
like I know what it means.
well, I actually changed it. So there's a lot of saying, a lot in the spiritual or in the healing industry, there's like this new level, new devil. So every
Okay.
new level you evolve to, now you've got a new thing to deal
Should like
with
a more
because
money, more problems.
right, kind of thing, right? Like, and it's true. Like, the more money you make, now
Yeah.
you have different problems to deal with. I like to say new level, same devil. So now especially if you had something super deep, the next level of evolution, you're going to have the same devil come back around, but you're seeing it from a
Yeah.
different vantage point, not from where you were before. Now you're in a different level. So it's going to hit you different. So if you
Oh,
have
that's
like
such a great way to say that.
being visible, like let's say that's something on your heart that you want to be speaking on stages, but you saw so and so in grade 6 was on a stage and they got made fun of him because he sneezed on stage or whatever. So now
Yeah.
you're like so scared to be on stage and sneeze. So now you get to be on stage because it's on your heart, and now you've got to hit this level where you're like, oh, and where is that coming from? Grade 6 you. So now you got to go
Yeah.
back to that. Then you're asked to speak at the UN. And guess what? Grade 6U is going to come along and be like, are you ready for this? What if you sneeze? So it's like, I mean, I'm making it kind of trivial, but it's much deeper than
No, it's
that
such a
because,
great example. It really is.
yeah, every level you're going to hit that old wound, see it in a different way, and integrate it deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
And so the work is never done until even when you take your last breath, you're still working on stuff in spirit.
So true.
So you're never done, never done. So Uranus, so we got Neptune enters retrograde in Pisces on October 22nd. Then November 7th, Uranus re-enters Taurus retrograde. So this is where that turbulence of the markets we're going to be feeling. And
Okay.
even if for you, Taurus rules are resources, money, the things that we
Yeah.
value. So in your own life, it would be really, really important for the beginning of November to shore up your own resources. Make sure you have your portfolio. I mean, the stock market's going to be the stock market. You know, if you
Yeah.
got your 401k or whatever, it's going to ride, so let that ride. But anything in your own immediate cash flow, you want to have a nest egg, and just make sure that you are being very frugal and smart with your money decisions at the beginning of November. Of
So if
course,
you're
I'm going to
hearing this in June or
yes.
July, or you're someone like many of you that goes back every month and listens to it, putting those pennies away a little earlier will help this feel maybe a little less uncomfortable if we could
Yes,
prepare, right?
that's right. Good time to go. Also, maybe do your shopping during this time.
Yeah.
But
Plan
bringing
ahead.
shifts. Sorry, go ahead.
Plan ahead. That's all.
Yes, plan ahead. So that Uranus retrograde entering Taurus brings shifts in values and resources. And then 2 days later, November 9th, we have Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius. So the final fire sign retrograde of the year.
Okay.
And Sagittarius is about forward momentum, going where your heart desires, adventure, information, learning. So, encouraging a reevaluation of your beliefs and travel plans and big ideas. And this is a time, again, this retro shade period, October 21st to November 9th, is when whatever you're working on, thinking about, dreaming about, that is going to come up for reviewing, reassessing, realigning between November 9th and November 29th. That's when Mercury will go direct on November 29th. But we have a little bit of spiciness in here because on November 18th, Mercury is going to retrograde into Scorpio because it's happening at the beginning degrees of Sagittarius to begin with. So it's going to move into Scorpio. And that Scorpio energy from November 18th to November 29th is bringing up the deep things so it's a water sign, fixed water sign. It's where we hold all our deepest emotions, our secrets, the things that we feel shame and guilt around, hold
Yeah.
there. It's also generational trauma. It's the trauma we have with money as well. It sits in Scorpio in these depths. So this is a time when, so let's say you have these big adventures on your heart, Sagittarius, and now as it goes into Scorpio, you're like this money trauma comes up with how are you going to fund this trip, or do you even deserve to go on this trip, or what part of you doesn't feel aligned with this, and where does that come from your
Yeah.
family? Because generational trauma is also in Scorpio. So this is not a light time, a
Yeah.
great time for healing, for therapy, for being in groups where you feel safe to unpack some of this stuff. And by the time November 29th comes along, you're going to have a whole new perspective on that goal of that visioning, that dream that you wanted to go after. And you're going to heal the parts of you that were not in alignment with that. So post shade is going to happen from November 29th to December 17th, where you're going to integrate all that you've learned. And now after December 17th, it's a time to go. Make your dreams come to reality, book the trip, go do the things that you want to do. And so we're really kind of gearing up for a very lovely December, because after that happens, we're going to have all kind of green light to move forward
Yeah.
in our lives.
Well, it sounds
So
like if we can plan ahead a little bit for like November, December, as I feel like schedules always get very tight. So maybe if it's possible for us as individuals to plan some spaciousness, some just like extra little time to be with ourselves or be prepared for looking within. I guess it sounds like a lot during that time. So maybe don't overcommit if possible, or don't put I feel like there's so many different holidays and cultural events during that time period that I feel like it could be really easy to get a lot on our schedule. So maybe exercise that power to say no.
yes, and get a lot on our schedules. Also, that commitment to time wise, but then also the money, the
Yeah.
financial side of that too, of going to these things or bringing presents for everybody, or the
Yeah, you
food
need
that
a
comes
different
along.
outfit.
Yeah.
You need to host people. You need to whatever. So that's a really great little tip, I think. Thank you for that. Like keeping that in mind as we, have several months on the approach here now.
You can see it coming. So to wrap up November, the Saturn will go direct on the 27th in Pisces. So this is a time now to really put into action our spiritual dreams, things that are coming up from our soul purpose. really moving forward with our what's on our heart. And then November 29th, Mercury will go direct, aiding in clear thinking and forward motion. But it's not, again, give like a couple days, right? The
Yeah.
actual day that Mercury goes, we call it stationary direct. It's sitting on a degree that is very potent, and it's going to be in Scorpio. So it's a time of conversations that are going to hit deep, that are going to really bring up some things. Again, great time for therapy and counseling and being in with your coach. And then Neptune turns direct, goes direct in Pisces on the 10th. It's very subtle energy. Spiritual insights and creativity may come up for you. Mercury enters Sagittarius again on the 11th of December. So this is that energy is going to start to pick up. You're going to have ideas, visioning, manifestation. This is a great time for that. And then we end off the year on Venus entering Capricorn on the 24th. This is a time of really being structured and grounded with what do we want to create, which
Yeah.
is perfect right before Christmas for that to happen. So we don't spend all our money on, like, Friday, was it called, Boxing Day
Oh,
deals,
yeah.
and all those end of season sales. This is now about long-term plan. We're going to be looking to 2026 long before 2026 actually comes in, because we're going to have all this grounded energy going in. So, and then Mercury enters Capricorn as well on January 1st of 2026. So there's this grounded energy coming in as well. Sun will be in Capricorn by then too. And we have a full moon on the 3rd of January in Cancer. So very
I
much in the
like it.
home and
Yeah.
releasing the things that we are complete with that way. So it's a really wonderful end of the year. We've got a
Yeah.
few months, in between that are turbulent in terms of lots of energy, lots of shifts, but you can see everything has a purpose, right? There
Yes.
is no waste with the universe. Everything
Yeah.
is moving us to the next step of our evolution, and there's reprieves, and then there's also these stretches in between.
I love that. And I feel like I always love the way that you share these reports with us, just because there's practical things we can do. And there are ways that we can kind of anticipate managing our energy or things to focus on. I love a thing to focus on just myself, where
Me
it's like,
too.
okay, so if I know that I'm someone that downloads things for my devices if I'm going to go on an airplane ahead. Like I
Yes.
feel like it's the same, where it's like, okay, you're going to have this time period, it might look like this. Like, what would you want to focus on? And I'll make notes in my calendar. And so I truly appreciate you doing these for us. And I know everyone else does too.
I love that. And when you said that people go back to this episode, I was like, oh my gosh, that's so
Yeah.
amazing. So, yeah, if you're one of those people that goes back to this episode, drop a note below on the podcast and just be like, hey, this is what I loved about this.
Yeah.
I would personally love to know, what part of this do you really enjoy? Because I think we're going to continue doing this for next
Yes,
year
I
as
would love
well.
that.
I
The
would love
other
that
way I
too.
love to use these is even to go back. Like I've gone back to that one that we did that was December, or what is it, January to through May. My little brain
No,
today.
it's okay.
And I'll see like, oh, what did happen? Or, you know what I mean? It's not just what's next month bringing, but like, what did I notice from last month? Where am I? How am I feeling? How does this relate to like what we had talked about? So, and with all of this energy of transformation and manifestation, I would love it if you would share about your 5-day free Manifest Your Best Life challenge that is coming right after the release of this episode, if you're listening at the time it's released.
Thank you for asking about that and allowing me to share. So my 5-day free Manifest Your Best Life challenge. It's a 5-day challenge. It's free. You can sign up and get a free guidebook and a meditation to help you get the most out of this challenge. And the reason why I do it is I really want people to understand the tools that manifestation is. I think there's so many really, it's nice on TikTok, right? Just
Yeah.
think it and it'll come into action. No, there's actually a healing part of it. There's so much more to manifestation. Just think it and it'll happen. So I go into all the principles, and then we also go into what stops you from manifesting and
Yes.
healing those parts of you, those Scorpio parts. I love. I'm a Scorpio rising, so I just like love talking about the grief and those sabotaging parts of us that are really trying to keep us safe. So in that 5-day challenge, you get to learn all those principles with me, and I run it every quarter, once a
Okay.
quarter.
Oh, cool. So if
So
you're listening on these replays month by month, make sure you go to the website, because you could make a note of when the next one is, because it's
yes.
going to come around again.
So June, and then the next one will be October,
Oh,
and then we do it
exciting.
again in December.
Oh,
So
perfect.
September to October. So yeah, if
Yeah.
you're following me on Instagram or social media, you'll see it. It's also on my website too. So we are very open
Okay.
about it. I love doing it, and I'm not the same person at any point in time during what I teach
Who
them.
is,
So
right?
I right, so I get to share all these different whatever I've been learning throughout that flavor will come up in there. So I have people come through
Yeah.
the challenge a few times and
Well,
learn
for
something
sure. I
cool.
mean, this is just so valuable the way that you do it because the truth is, if you could just think about it and it would show up, then why don't you have it already? Because clearly
Right.
you're thinking about it. So something else is going on here. And this is a great kind of jumpstart way. And then you also have the Manifestation, Intuition, and Astrology Academy, right?
That's right. Yeah, it's my monthly membership where we go deeper into intuition principles, manifestation principles. We have monthly classes live with me. We actually have one tonight where we're doing stuff with
Oh,
pendulums.
exciting.
I know it's so much fun. So I get to explore these topics deeper and go, and they get to have me in their ear weekly as well. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun. So
Well, and
thank you.
that's a really great way to then harness this energy and these themes and to keep. I love coaching myself because I need someone to like help me stay on track and make sure if it's not on my calendar, it's not going to happen. So then I know, okay, this is what I'm working on. This is what's happening. So I think we all need mentors and guides in this lifetime.
Yes,
So I highly
100%.
encourage it. Yeah,
Yeah, and we're not meant to do this life alone.
for
If you
sure.
think that you are alone or you're doing things alone all the time, it's actually a trauma response to being a hyper
Yeah.
independent as a kid because no one else was available to help you out because your parents are probably super busy, not because you're not cared for, or maybe you
Yeah.
were not cared for, but you're meant to do life together. That's all this Gemini energy that we were talking about is community and connections. It takes a village, y'all. It takes a village.
Well, I am so grateful to have you as a part of my village. And
Me
I
too
invite
for
everyone else to
you.
come into the village too. It's
I
pretty
love you.
great. Well, thank you so much
Thank you.
for being here. Sheetal Story, it's .com, right?
That's right.
I will link it in the show notes, of course, because it's much easier to click than remember and write things down. So be sure to check out Sheetal in the show notes, in her website, on social media. Get those full moon and new moon reports as we go through the rest of this year so you can be dialed in to harness this energy, right?
That's right.
Thank you so much for being here and shining
Thank
your
you.
light.
Thank you for having me. I just love you and
Ah,
thank you. I'll come back every time you ask me.
girl, I'm going to ask you. Well, as I said in the episode, I am so grateful to Sheetal for coming and really sharing all of this wisdom, all of this what to expect so that we can be prepared, so that we can best use the energy to step into these versions of ourselves and our lives that we're wanting to create. Definitely check out her manifestation challenges and the way that she does them because she's an amazing teacher. I think most of you know by now. I will link her website and everything in the show notes, her social media points as well, so you can follow her there. I know a lot of you have already been following her because she comes and does these for us over the years. And she does give these amazing weekly, kind of day to day astrology tidbits. So you know what to expect that week, how to use the energy. As promised, I want to give you guys that quote that I butchered, like I said I did, by Anise Nin. It says, and the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. And it really does feel like that quote encapsulates this year and certainly the energy for the second half of this year. So even though none of us necessarily loves discomfort, I really hope all of you can see yourselves blooming in new and wonderful ways. Always grateful to Sheetal and to you as well. Thank you so much for being a part of our Spirit Speakeasy family and community. And I just really appreciate you. And I'm excited to go through the rest of this crazy year together. Let's see what it brings. And please do share in the show notes or the comments or wherever you're listening to this or watching it, how you like to use these episodes. Sheetal and I are always curious and brainstorming together about how we can bring you the best info. Big hugs, lots of love. Bye for now from inside Spirit Speakeasy.